At first, no one believed that tomorrow would be the end of the world. It wasn't until they were shocked to discover that the last batch of welfare sent by the government was actually a ticket to heaven that they truly realized the terrifying nature of the disaster. It was a massive storm, filled with deadly toxins, and it was about to sweep across the globe. There was no way to stop it, no one could escape it. But on the eve of the apocalypse, on Christmas Eve, this young family still adhered to their old traditions. They invited their closest friends to spend this final night together. The wife put on her most elaborate makeup, the husband released all the poultry, the eldest son helped prepare the feast, and the twin brothers bathed and dressed up. When their well-dressed friends arrived, the warm dinner began. They tried their best to savor the last of the food, sharing their joys and sorrows as they clinked glasses. As for the fear and despair of facing death, they carefully suppressed it deep inside, afraid of ruining this precious moment of happiness. But the eldest son didn't seem to understand the adults' forced smiles. With the frankness of a child, he unreservedly exposed the illusion before him. He knew about the impending disaster. The boy believed that all of this was Earth's revenge on humanity, because for countless years, Earth had been absorbing humanity's garbage. Now, it could bear no more and had vomited everything back out. Once this night passed, the toxic storm would come, and everyone would pay with their lives.
You should all be ashamed of yourselves.
His words left everyone speechless and instantly pulled them back to the brutal reality. It was time for Christmas wishes. The boy's family made a video call to his grandmother as planned, expressing their mutual longing, but suddenly the grandmother looked out the window in panic, her words becoming hurried. The wife sensed something was wrong, but in order to protect the children's emotions, she quietly closed the bathroom door. The grandmother didn't even have time to say goodbye. Watching the toxic storm sweep past the window, all could do was wait for the end of life. At the same time, the toxic storm had already engulfed the city and was heading toward them. Yet even so, the boy still couldn't accept reality. On the verge of collapse, he pushed open the car door and ran out. He kept running down a narrow path until he saw a car with flashing lights stopped at the side of the road. Curious, he stopped and cautiously approached. To his horror, he found that the pills under the windshield had already been opened, and inside the car, a family of 4 had peacefully passed away. The sight made the boy scream in terror, and in his panic, he didn't even realize he had inhaled the toxic gas swirling nearby. When the gas dissipated, his father found him just in time and quickly brought him back home. The festivities inside the house came to an abrupt end.
This man, during the zombie invasion, decisively abandoned his wife and fled alone. But he was soon spotted by the zombies, who chased him from all directions. His companion, who had reached the dock first, was about to untie the rope holding the speedboat. Don immediately jumped onto the boat, but his companion suddenly mutated. Don quickly kicked him off the boat and successfully escaped by driving the speedboat away. 28 days later, the entire island of Britain was destroyed by the zombie virus. 5 weeks later, all the zombies died from hunger. The military began to occupy the city center to help rebuild the homeland. 28 weeks later, a plane carrying survivors stranded abroad slowly descended. Among them were Don's son and daughter, who had escaped the crisis by going to Spain for a study trip. Survivors had to undergo strict medical checks to ensure their bodies were normal before they could enter. Major Sheila, the medical commander in charge of the check, noticed that the younger brother, Andy, had eyes of different colors. This iris mutation is typically genetic, and upon inquiry, she learned it was inherited from his mother. After passing the medical check, Andy and his sister, Tim, were sent to the first safe zone, Dog Island, which housed 15,000 survivors and was protected by the military. The island had normal water and electricity supplies, hospitals, supermarkets, and bars. Their father, Don, happened to be a regional administrator there. The two siblings were very satisfied with their new home, but they still longed to return to their old house. However, their former home was not within the safe zone, and Don did not want to go back. He never mentioned abandoning his wife to escape on his own. Instead, he told the children that he had witnessed their mother being bitten by zombies, but was powerless to help. He managed to escape on his own and found the military. The next morning, the siblings secretly left the safe zone to retrieve a photo of their mother, but their movements were soon detected by a sniper on the rooftop, who reported it to his superior. On the way, the two found a motorcycle which greatly sped up their journey back home. Their house still looked the same as before. After finding the photo of their mother, Tim returned to the room to pack some clothes. Meanwhile, Andy, who had nothing to do, entered the attic, and unexpectedly, he found his mother there.
A sudden zombie outbreak erupted in the city, but Neil, a forest ranger, remained unaware in the deep mountains. Suddenly, a scream pierced the air, and he saw a girl struggling in the water. Without hesitation, Neil jumped in and managed to drag her to shore. However, the next second, the girl transformed into a zombie. Just as he was still in shock, more zombies began to attack him, forcing Neil to hurriedly flee back to his home. Once back, he urged his wife to wake up, but she had drunk too much the previous night, and was lying motionless in bed. Neil opened the drawer only to find it empty of ammunition. At that moment, zombies outside were already trying to break in. Despite his confusion, Neil had no choice but to help his semi-conscious wife towards the car. They had once had a happy family, but everything changed after their son mysteriously disappeared during a trip. In search of their son, Neil even quit his job in the big city and became a forest ranger. Today, while at the shore, he had never expected to encounter the zombie outbreak. He drove to a small town where the park had already descended into chaos. Pulling over to a quiet corner, Neil tried to calm his nerves. Strangely though, his wife seemed completely unaware of the situation. Despite Neil's attempts to explain that the outbreak might be caused by a mutated rabies virus, making people go mad, his wife showed no fear, only confusion. Neil assumed she hadn't fully regained her senses. The priority now was to find his brother Mike and figure out their next move. Soon the car ran out of fuel. Avoiding crowded places, Neil drove to a very secluded gas station. After refueling, he tried to contact his colleagues via the radio, but after much effort, all he heard was static. Continuing his journey, Neil finally reached Mike's house late at night. For his wife's safety, he asked her to stay in the car and handed her a knife before heading inside alone. He opened the door, but the house was eerily silent. Sensing something was wrong, Neil cautiously called out for Mike, but received no answer. Just then, a sound of chopping meat came from the kitchen. It was his sister-in-law.
Hey.